Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinnie Eastwood Show. Broadcasting live on AmericanFreedomRadio.com 5 days a week for your listening pleasure. My guest today is Karen Hughes, or Hughes, or I forget what it is, but she's not here just yet. She's on her way home from seeing her parents, I believe, and will be on Skype soon enough. In the meantime, a little bit of New Zealand news for you. John Banks is a person that I hate a lot. And not for petty reasons that he's just not nice to me or anything like that. It's more because he's really, really corrupt and like evil and is really rude to everybody, basically. Unless you're willing to. I hate FCC regulations. I was going to make some kind of disgusting sexual reference, but yeah, he's a really, really nasty, unhappy character. And at the moment, he's under private prosecution in the New Zealand courts because he is allegedly guilty of electoral fraud. Now, electoral fraud, for those of you who are not, up to it, is a very serious crime. Like, if you take a shockingly large amount of money, that's donated to you by somebody like, I don't know, Kim.com, for example, and you don't declare that money was given to you as a campaign contribution from somebody, that's illegal. So naturally, because he's part of the criminal cabal that runs this country, he just decided to take it and not declare it. And now he might be facing the consequences. And this is a really heartening to me, because it proves that you can indeed individually wind up getting justice. I mean, think about this. We've got Graham McCready, who is leading this private prosecution against the Honourable John Banks, and he is going to... I'm told that I'm breaking up somewhat here. If we give me a second, I'll see if I can just adjust this right now, because there's a whole bunch of things uploading and what have you, and it'll break up my signal something chronic. So I'm just going to pause all of these little uploads here, and hopefully that should clear up the signal somewhat. Okay, now I'm not sure if people can hear me very well here, but I'm getting to it, man. Just be patient. I really don't like John Banks. I really don't like John Banks. I go so far as to, how some people say, "Oh, well, hate is such a strong word." For John Banks, I think it's a very appropriate word. I mean, the term scumbaggery was practically made for him. And people like him. He's just really, really just a bad dude. And so naturally, because he's a bad dude, he winds up getting himself into really, really lucrative positions of power, like being the mayor of Auckland, for example, or the leader of the opposition party, for example. He's one of the linchpins that allows the government to get away with perpetrating copious quantities of scumbaggery. All right, there's the thing right there, because if John Banks goes down and the government is now no longer capable of counting on their coalition partner, which basically okays and rubber stamps everything that they pass through under urgency, they might not be able to continue doing so. You strike at the weakest target. I mean, if you're a lion and you want to, gobble up yourself a nice, tasty gazelle burger, you go for the weakest little gazelle, And that's what John Banks is now. We are the lions. We're roaring. And we're going to devour him. Because he's just that delicious to rip apart with the ribcage and whatnot. Now, I think that although I'm very happy about this, and I get some kind of a sick fascination by seeing scumbaggery get exposed. I'm also very tentative and thinking about, how effective is this actually going to be? I mean, really. You have a look at the New Zealand court system, as Vince Seamer from kiwisfirst.co.nz has exposed, that a lot of the judges are related, and there's no court of record. Like, you're not allowed to keep records in a courtroom. Well, not most of the time it doesn't happen. And even if it does happen, and you find out that the judge is being corrupt, or there's some form of scumbaggery going down inside the courtroom, suddenly those records just magically disappear. You know, because the corruption in this country is total. All right, total. No, I'm not kidding, all right? We may as well be ruled by Robert Mugabe. That's how corrupt this country of New Zealand is. And people don't understand that, because when they walk down the street and they get busted by cops and you can't just bribe the cops or whatever, they think that, oh, well, suddenly, you know, there's no corruption of any kind. It's not like in Bali where you get caught with 50 grams of weed or something like that, and you just give the police officer a big wad of cash and he just looks the other way. Doesn't happen like that here in New Zealand. It's not that kind of corruption. It's high-level corruption, okay? Top-down corruption. There's some very, 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 very intricate stories that have been coming out from all sorts of people that, more or less, if you're a high-powered politician in this country, the likelihood that you're not taking backhanders or facilitating some kind of corrupt New World Order agenda is pretty slim, Jim. All right, pretty slim. And even if you are a good politician who tends to be honest, there'll be lots of things that you won't want to talk about, right? Because they're the truth, right? And if you're a politician, telling the truth is like smacking yourself in the head with a ball-peen hammer. It's suicide, you know? Have you noticed that? How sad that situation is? That telling the truth in politics is akin to political suicide. All right? That's the unfortunate business that we wind up having to accept at this particular juncture in time, because of the fact the whole system's corrupt. Right? You have this very, very massive apparatus in Parliament that is set up specifically so that if any good apples get in there, the bad barrel corrupts them. All right? You have a look at the protocols, training, and what have you for new politicians. And there's all this red tape. So even if you were a good person getting into Parliament, the red tape prevents you from doing the right things because you're not allowed to. You're just physically not allowed to do the right thing. That's Parliament in New Zealand anyway. And I'm not entirely convinced that it's any different in any of the other first world nations around the world. You know, you get elected, you're like, yeah, I'm going to do this. But it's like being class president. You don't actually have any power. The bankers control everything. Everything. You know, with their all-seeing eyes and their big pyramids and what have you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you try. It just doesn't work. And people tell me that, well, here's a good idea. Let's give the government a submission. Submission? As far as I know, submission doesn't connote strength. It it connotes giving up. I don't think that's why they call them submissions. You know, we're the government, and we're about to pass this law which nobody likes. We're prepared to take your submissions. Well, of course you're prepared to take our submission, because it means you can just continue to pass the law and give people the illusion that they actually contributed. I've been to heaps of these submission hearings, and almost every single submitter is talking about something that's very relevant, very scary, and exposing scumbaggery. And so naturally, the panel just goes, okay, thank you very much for your submission, and completely ignore it. I love it. I absolutely love it. You know, you can't get over just how corrupt this country is when you actually look. Yeah, that's the only reason that anybody I could conceive of would think that this country isn't corrupt, is if they haven't actually looked. It's everywhere you point your eyes. Everywhere. The police, the very, very first arm of enforcement, you try telling them that John Banks is a criminal and ask them to arrest him and privately prosecute him. I've seen the documents, I've seen the letters. No, sorry, no, we're not going to do that, we're not going to do that. But why not? There was these other guys that were part of a finance company which John Banks signed off on, false financial reports, which wound up losing tens of millions of dollars for their investors. And you arrested the guy and charged him and jailed him, named Peter Hulich, who was one of the 3 signatories. Because the other 2 signatories were John Banks, who was, like, at the time, virtually the mayor of Auckland and the leader of a major political party, and Don Brash, who's a former governor of the Reserve Rothschild Bank of New Zealand, and was at one point the leader of the National Party. At the time it was the opposition. Okay, so those 2 corrupt politicians can sign off a false waiver and let the fall guy take all the blame. That is how this country works. That's how it works. It works beautifully. It's undeniable. It's very effective. And my goodness, is it difficult to get anybody in this country to even sit up and take notice of it. It's actually quite depressing, you know? The mainstream media will cover it to a degree, gloss over it, as they do, and never let any of the proper details come out. It's just not what they do. That's why I get really depressed when you think about the media in this country. Oh, God. Because you can't have massive corruption in the high places and have an honest media in the same sentence. You know? It just doesn't happen. Because the corrupt media cover up for the corrupt politicians. Alright? It's a perfect circle. They got no responsibility to journalism. I've never been trained in journalism and I've still got more responsibility to it than they do. Just sick of it, man. They really do need to get their Shiite Muslim together. But something tells me that they won't unless they're absolutely forced to. You know, this is another element, is that you should be telling your government what to do every day. All right? Not the other way around. Not the other way around at all. At all. The authority that they presume to have over all of us is merely a fake facade backed up by violence. That's the reason why that fake facade carries on for so long, is because people don't like having violence perpetrated on them just for exposing a fake facade. As I say, it's a perfect cycle. We'll be right back after the break at the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. Don't you go anywhere, folks. Welcome back to the Vinny Eastwood Show. And I'm still waiting on my guest, Karen Hughes there. We'll get her up in a minute. So AFR, if you're on the boards there, just keep in touch with her and connected to the Skype whenever possible. In the meantime, also wanted to iterate and indeed explain the reason why in the very start of the show today it was breaking up a little bit, is because we're uploading a whole bunch of new music to American Freedom Radio, where we're going to replace all of the songs, the intro and outro tracks to this radio broadcast, with nice, summery, happy, vibrant kind of music, because everybody in the United States is currently experiencing winter, and it's as cold as Shiite Muslims. So hopefully that'll start to warm you up as soon as we get all of those tracks plugged in to the schedule. You know, it's just my way of saying, don't worry, I know that it's cold, I know that it's dark, I know that it sucks, but there's summer somewhere, and hopefully you will be able to enjoy it somewhat. Now, We're connecting up Karen
Hello?
right now.